So we're here with Majed. How are you, man? It's good to see you again.
Thanks, I'm very good. How are you, Danny?
I'm doing good. A bit stressful getting this all set up. I underestimated how difficult it can be to get everything set up because I want everything to be perfect, but we probably just need a little bit more time to set up, but it's okay. We got it going.
Well, I appreciate that, and I think once you set it up, it will do you for the rest of the time. So
Yeah,
yeah, it's worth the effort.
Yeah, that was the important. As long as it's set up and it's nice and neat now. I don't want it to, no more accidents. So it's been a while since I've last seen you. Last time I saw you, we were talking about a TV show at N5, and I did not go through with it. I wanted to, and I got close to really. I didn't get close to making it, but I got close to really pushing for it. But I was just kind of like, Dubai. Nothing against Dubai. Dubai has a standard, and they might not. And although I didn't want to have any controversial topics or anything like that, but I didn't want to create anything that might be,
But we spoke about this, and I remember mentioning that sometimes it's good to explore ideas, even if they're not applicable or becomes very difficult to apply, because through the exploration, through the research, you learn new things, you learn new tricks that might be very helpful, and another idea that you really are going to apply and probably going to take you to the success you're looking for. So I think it's good that you explore that idea. Probably it helped you in one way or another to set up this podcast right now. So
yeah. I think that's what I think the show eventually just became. Well, I'll just do a podcast.
and probably the podcast gonna become the TV show that you're looking for. So finger crossed.
It's crossed my mind. The thing is, it wasn't just like the topics I was going to talk about because I wanted to surround it about good news, because you turn on the news and it's all negative wars and all that. And I was like, man, everyone's tired of that. I kind of wanted to see what's going on around the film industry, entertainment media industry around in Dubai, Abu Dhabi. Abu Dhabi is probably the bigger part of it. But just the hassle of trying to always get a venue for it, because I needed an auditorium, like a stage, so I can set up the furniture. And I had people that were like, hey, we'll give you a little bit of money for furniture for it and stuff like that. And I was like, I can probably get guests and I can get equipment. I can get equipment here. Thank you, SAE Dubai, for letting me borrow the studio and the equipment. We'll plug that in real quick. But it would just be, man, it's really difficult trying to get started. That's what ultimately it is. And it's not that I shied away from it. It's just that it was just all on me. I had no team. It was just all on me. It's a lot.
Well, let me say in general that it feels always difficult to start something, and day by day I start to realize the importance of having partners, of having some people that works with you, not only for let's say assisting you to make this thing done. It's also because that there are things they know, there are experience they have been through that you might need through the process of starting any venture, any enterprise. And part of the things we talked about is the business I've started about the culture and tourism. It's actually, I would say, 2009, I was still at college at that time, and it has been circulated in the circle I hang out at, is that there is that government entity looking for guides who kind of can be trained and who have a great storytelling to take people through a cultural experience. I wouldn't say religious, but mostly kind of a cultural traditional experience within Sheikh Zayed Mosque. So as a student, I went for it just for the kind of the fun of it, and also for the pay that it's gonna give. I met remarkable people there, and through the 5 years of working there, kind of friendship has been arised, experience has been accumulated, and at that time, I wasn't thinking of having a business in that field. I wasn't thinking of having a business at all. I was still a student, but an experience make me realize that how people appreciate when they come to the UAE, having an Emirati guide with them, they feel that there is a bit of authenticity in the story.
Yeah, absolutely.
Beyond the training they have. So we thought of why not having a company that provide cultural and tourist experience to people only through Emirati guides. And it has been now less than a year since we started, and the feedback from some government entities is great, and also the feedback from a lot of tourist companies are great, although they might have some similar packages or similar sort of services, and they have their own guides who provide similar sort of experience at their end, but still they would like to have a little bit of our experience in their program, just for having that kind of moment sitting with an Emirati and talking about the kind of the Emirati society, how things unfold, and how the UAE people think, and what's their tradition and what's their culture. So, and I think I can apply the same idea to any sort of goal or venture you're looking for. Is you will never know how it starts, and you will never know where it ends. And at the end of the day, I couldn't go through with it if I didn't have my partner Ahmed Al-Amri. He has, I can say one thing, he has a different temperament than mine, actually.
Yeah.
I'm a bit passionate, I'm a bit straightforward.
Yeah.
He's more reserved, he's more thinking through.
I understand.
And being together kind of help a lot
Yeah,
the
he's
success.
opposite end of you.
Exactly.
You balance each other out.
Exactly.
I got you.
So I think also in your goals, probably if you have people in similar fashion, you will be surprised how your kind of endeavor will go through and how far it will go.
Yeah, I understand that, because I'm kind of more like you. I'm more kind of straightforward, and my team, they'll tell you straight up, especially Ali. He's over there. He'll tell you that I'm a bit straightforward. I don't mean to it, and it sounds like I'm really being mean.
You want to get to it.
I just want to get to the point.
Yeah, exactly. Let's finish that.
Especially like when people like message me, like, you know, like when you want something and they're like, "Hey, how you doing?" I'm like, "What do you want?" Like just get straight to the point. Just like it's not that the pleasantries bother me. How you doing? Things like it's because that's not your intention to ask me how I'm doing. Your intention is to get to what you need to get to. You know what I'm saying? So I definitely understand what you're talking about. But since we're talking about kind of culture related topics and, you know, being an entrepreneur, I actually know a company. I'm actually working for them. They're called Live. And I had to study a little bit of Emirati culture. And you might be surprised that I know this, but I know a little.
No, I'm not at all.
I know.
Actually, I'm very glad that you.
I know a little bit about the Emirati culture, which is good because I didn't really know much. I mean, I know a little bit. Arabic food's actually quite good. I love kebab. That's poison for me. But there's something called. They have a pretty niche idea. They have incorporated. They're a fashion startup company. They're called Live. And they have found a way to incorporate al-sadu and tali weaving into a purse, a clutch. And so they're using these kinds of designs from the Bedouin women. And they're working with Al Gadir in Abu Dhabi. And so they found a niche way to kind of incorporate that into a fashion. I thought that was quite neat. And so I had to do like a lot of research on that, trying to figure out what kind of direction we wanted to go with in terms of what they wanted for advertisement purposes. And so that was quite interesting to see, and I got to see like the whole process. I went to Al Gadir, see all the stuff that they make, and I was like, this is actually some really nice stuff.
And how did you feel after that? I'm taking the interviewer now, so
that's good. I'm kind of appreciative, you know, because I'm kind of like, you know, you come into, this is my first time being in a foreign country. Since before Dubai, when I was a baby, I was in Germany, but I don't remember anything from that, of course. But so definitely I wanted to get a more, you know, feel of what, you know, the culture was behind the big city and skyscrapers, because I've seen the pictures before of Dubai before, you know, when it was just a desert. And that was actually not too long ago. So now that it's, you know, this huge metropolis area, I wanted to see what was, you know, a little bit behind that.
And it was so quick that the aspect of the tradition and the I would say the sort of the ancient culture still there, even in day-to-day interaction between the Emirati and sometimes between the Emirati and others. It is there, but as you said, most of the time, especially for someone who come to the UAE as a visitor, is they see the skyscraper, they see the modernity, which is good, and sometime and somehow they can get in touch with that traditional and cultural aspect. And I'm glad that, and we have like sort of cooperation and association with other companies that want to take a niche of the Emirati culture. Some companies are kind of, I don't remember the name now, that they want to focus a lot on the marine life of the Emirati tradition. Others, as you mentioned, the weaving and some sort of the related to the farmer and more farming life of the UAE. For us, it's more the story. For us, it's more like the storytelling and kind of most of more of a cultural awareness, one-to-one session, and talking and giving a chance to be able to ask. And sometimes the question become very abstract about why you think about things like that or why you do that in that way, and we try our best to answer it. And as I mentioned, we have a great feedback. So
what are some of those questions that people ask you that are abstract? Are they questions that just kind of throw you off guard and you're like, where did that come from?
Well, the thing is I wouldn't call it that abstract, the examples I'm going to use, but then the answer becomes a bit of kind of
Difficult.
I wouldn't say difficult, most kind of a sort of a social reasoning for it. I mean, why you wear white, why the woman wear black, and why, and then it becomes kind of to how the marriage process happened in the UAE, and there are lots of changes actually in the dress codes and also in the marriages process, but still you gotta put people in perspective how it was in the past and how it became now. For the dress code, actually, this is one of the most kind of question people are curious about. Is why specifically white for men and why mostly black dress for women, and when we trace it back, it kind of it created by the division of labor. In many cultures that you notice, women kind of mostly resides around the villages, around the inhabitant area, and men either go for hunting or looking after the livestock, or if there is a farm somehow distant from the village. And being in that environment requires a bit of a lighter color to reflect the sunlight, and most of the time it wouldn't be clear white, it would be a bit beige or a bit yellowish, just to avoid that catching much dirt.
Yeah.
While women, the abaya we see, it's not kind of the main dress. This is something to cover what they're dressing most of the time. And the purpose behind that was to have something light and not transparent at the same time. So the darker the color is, the better. So, and that's how it evolved into what we see today. So answering this question, it requires some sort of explaining how people think, what they do, and the idea behind it. What I enjoy about it is I can see in people's faces how they can start to relate to you. Maybe they have something in their culture a bit similar, or kind of it might be different, but it happens for a similar reason as it was with you.
Everyone's got a different culture in their background. I mean, if you was to come to my small town, you'd probably be asking me why people dress like that, and my answer would be I don't know. There's a website called peopleofwalmart.com, and I'm sure you know what Walmart is, and a lot of people come in and they dress in a particular way that is not even culturally appropriate for us. And we're pretty relaxed as Americans, but even still, we're like, why are you wearing close to nothing, or fishnet stockings, or whatever it may be, or ripped t-shirts and stuff like that? Just like,
but I noticed something. Wherever you go, there is always some sort of a value the person believes that drive them to wear what they wear or do what they do. Sometimes they are capable of articulating that to you, which make you understand and sympathize with them. and sometimes they can't. But there is gotta be something that drives that. So yeah.
So what are other kind of things that you guys do for your business?
So basically, we started with the standard exertion that the tour operator have, which is city tour and a trip around Abu Dhabi, Al Ain, and also the Western region. We have a trip to Western region, and we operate over the Emirates of Abu Dhabi. That's our focus. And then we branched a little bit, and we kind of, the city tour, we start making more specialized tour. So a traditional food tour where you go with the guide and stop in some of the restaurants that's known for providing Emirati cuisine, or some of the kind of the restaurant that most of the Emirati will have a snack, like the karak and the ragag, and sort of that you would stop and order for the karak from your car. That by itself is a kind of a cultural sensation. It starts with the Emiratis, and then you see now other nationality in the UAE do it, and we think that the tourists should live that experience. Okay. And then it branched out into kind of a market or shopping tour. So something that take people to where they can find the items that the Emirati people would use, from the kandura, the abaya, the perfumes and the spices and so on. And out of recent, we start something called the Majlis tour. So if you walk around the city of Abu Dhabi or Al Ain, you will find in every neighborhood a small building. Looks a bit traditional, but equipped in a modern way. And the purpose of that place is a sort of a gathering, some sort of a community gathering area for the neighborhood on that place. So what happened in cooperation with the Crown Prince Court is we invite the guests to come there. We host them, and we give them a full experience of what it feels to be an Emirati Majlis, to have the taste of Emirati cuisine. We have some exhibits, traditional exhibits from clothes, item, jewelry, and we demonstrate some Emirati dance as well. And the core of that idea, it comes from the UNESCO when it chooses Al Majlis idea as one of the reserved and tangible culture, because it has an impact on people. In the past used to be for kind of political reason. It's the place where decisions were taken, and now it's the place where people meet and discuss their day-to-day life, and sometimes awareness about things happens in the Majlis. Culture exchange happens in the Majlis, from the elderly to the young people, and in every house you have that area where it's visible even from people who are passing by, that people gather there and sit. So Al Majlis is I think a cultural phenomena that you occur it in the houses and also across the neighborhood. So this is our latest sort of experience.
That sounds interesting, really. Because when I was doing research about the Bedouin women and the telly and also the weaving, apparently it's like a dying part of the culture. Like, it's not necessarily, a lot of the Bedouin women were saying that it's not really being passed down anymore. So is that kind of one of the purposes of starting a company or a business like this? Is that we have to cut? Okay, let's go ahead and cut sound. Okay, now we're back. Now we're back. Yeah. Okay, yeah, you're asking me where I'm from. I am from Oklahoma. A lot of people mistakenly ask, and rightfully so, they think I'm from Texas because everyone's familiar with Texas.
Your accent.
I was like, close, but no, I am not. I used to live in Texas. I lived in El Paso, Texas for a while. But that's more Hispanic rather than...
purely English speaking people. Okay.
Yeah. I was going to say white people, but I didn't want that to sound terrible. But yeah.
Maybe a little bit of political correctness sometimes is good, yeah.
I did say Hispanic, so that is technically politically correct. I am from Oklahoma. I'm from a small town in Oklahoma called Chickasha.
I figured that out a little bit, but I couldn't locate it. Yeah. The way you sound, the way you carry yourself out. Is it?
A lot of people will be like, what's Chickasha? I'm like, it's just a town you'll never hear of. It's just a little speck, little speck of dust amongst the...
How many people in that? What's the population?
It's bigger now. It's bigger than when I went back, I mean, it's growing quite exponentially fast. So, I don't really know the population. I think the population, I remember a number, I don't know how accurate it is, but it's like 250,000 people. But that was like probably that was years ago. So now it's probably tripled. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, it's quite big now. It's no longer, it's a city, so it's not necessarily a small town. It's a small city, but now it's quite big now.
Yeah, this kind of town is good to have a shop or a business there, because as it grows, without doing anything, you grow with them. Yeah. So this is
Yeah. There's a lot of small towns. I mean, a lot more businesses coming, which is good because, I mean, there's a lot that needs to be done for my small town. There's a lot of people in poverty and things like that. So it's good that there's a lot of jobs coming through, a lot of people doing a lot better, which is always good, always a positive thing. My town can definitely use a bit of a cleanup, more jobs is always for the better.
But I think since you said it, growth is there. It's going to continue. And you're going to see it.
It started with the oil fields. We got a lot of oil around there, a lot of fracking. So that's kind of what started it. And then we kind of get a little bit more restaurants coming in, and then that brings more, shops. And then once more, it becomes more populated. Now bigger businesses want to come in. And now we got a new mayor back in my town I just heard of. So, I mean, things are looking up. So
they're waiting for you, I guess.
Yeah, a lot of people from home watching my podcast, which is good, When I come home, I don't know, I like when people see me doing.
Can you tell me the name of the town again?
Chickasha.
Chickasha. Yeah. Hello, people of Chickasha. Nice talking to you and nice meeting your dear son, Danny. Yeah.
The legend, huh?
16 grand Chickasha population, 16,276.
No, there's no way that is accurate.
Oklahoma, right?
Yeah.
I just Googled it.
Yeah, no, there's no way that's accurate. I guarantee you that's not accurate.
Google Wikipedia is. there is some sort of conspiracy in it.
Yeah, Wikipedia is right. Wikipedia is good. Yeah.
There is some sort of conspiracy in it.
Now, it's weird from how I grew up, from how my peers here. When I came to college, I was expecting, of course, I probably shouldn't have been expecting, but I was hoping that they would have like a sports team that I could probably join. I was hoping that, they would have more than what they do have.
Are you talking about the college here or back in Oklahoma?
College here. Yeah. So I joined college when I was, I'm 27 now. Well, I will be Wednesday. So when I release this, you guys can all wish me happy birthday. No, back when I was coming here, I came here 2017, January 10th, 2017. Yeah. And I was expecting a lot, but when I actually joined the college, I was like, dang, they don't really have anything. There's no sports team. There's no, like, community. There's just, like, bits and, like, cliques and groups of people. But I was surprised because everyone was so much younger than I was. I was expecting people, to be my age. But I kind of felt like high school again. That's honestly what it felt like. It felt like going back to high school. I was like, wow, this is not what I expected at all. It's just the difference, though. There's a lot of different people. Huh?
This is something also in high school here. When I remember this very well. That there was no much. I'm not sure about the situation now. Maybe it's changed. That there's no much emphasis on the extracurriculum activity in the school, where you can go, let's say, participate in a football team or being in a drama group or something like that. And I feel these things really teach you as much as learning in the normal classes.
You know what? It's funny that you brought that up because now the UAE is actually really big on jiu-jitsu. Yeah. And now I do jiu-jitsu, and I know that they put jiu-jitsu into the schools for kids to do. And I think that is fantastic. I think that's one of the best things that you could do because it teaches kids respect, discipline, how to defend themselves in case of bullies or anything like that. And it's not necessarily to be violent against someone who's being, bullying you, but how to, defuse in a situation necessarily, and how to be more comfortable and confident with yourself. And I met some of the kids that are doing it. I know a coach that's helping teaching them out, and I was like, that's impressive, actually. It's really good. Yeah. So I think they should be doing that in the States, but they don't. I mean, there's sports in the States, which is good. You should always have sports. But I think, martial arts is definitely a bit more of an avenue, or at least I'm kind of biased towards it, but I think jiu-jitsu is a good avenue for kids because it's
I think, and I know people might have sort of reservation about what to say, but especially boys, that having a sport, having martial arts specific, it's a channel to deal and inhibit and understand their aggression, and when they use it and how they use it and how they can use it for the benefit of the country, let's say, in the future.
It's perfect for women too. I mean, it's perfect for just about anybody who wants to get into it.
But I said it has a lot of story. I don't think this podcast has some sort of maybe to talk about it in depth, that why I said that and why, so that's why,
You can say whatever whatever you want, man.
Now for me, when I was in school, the favorite extracurriculum activity for me was drama and public speaking, and I remember winning few kind of rewards, and I stopped after high school for a couple of years, but then I had the chance to come back to do some theater and to do some commercials and do some movies, and I attribute that to the extracurriculum activity at the school, that sometime it really shape your interest and shape your the goals in your life and what you do, and
Yeah, I did drama back in high school. I have a teacher, Miss Redding, and she was amazing. She was definitely a bit too lenient with us because I was kind of a hooligan, I guess you could call that. But I definitely enjoyed drama class. That was my favorite class. But it's funny that since I kind of started trying to educate myself a little bit more on entrepreneurship and things like that, schools don't really teach that kind of stuff. They don't teach you outwardly thinking, or how to do your taxes, for example, or I don't know. I can't.
How to apply for a loan?
Yeah, or how to. Well, not that. No, you don't really want to apply for a loan, but I don't know. I think that some of these things should be looked into.
But I think business and entrepreneurship is beyond the process of getting a loan or how you conduct your taxes. It's more. It's about negotiation and how you present yourself, and also being disciplined and being more conscientious, and school. You were talking earlier. We were talking about how we are straightforward and we want to cut to the chase, and recently I learned something, that most of the things that we do in our life is sort of a game, and it has a game sense, we observe that or not. And often in school we don't learn how to play. We learn that when we were kids, and in business it's mostly kind of how you define your goal and how well you understand the process of getting to that goal, and how well you can play kind of going through this process. And part of the process is, as I mentioned, part of it is negotiation and convincing other people to work with you. It's quite similar to find a playmate, sort of. You show other kids that I am a person you can play with and you can enjoy the playing with. And how you can win in a way that encourage people to still playing with you, not because you're winning they're gonna sort of feel that they're always losing and defeated by you, so they want to play with you. So I think these things, I'm not sure if there is any way to make them like a structured curriculum and teach it to people, but I think it happens by allowing the person to experience living, to experience dealing with people, to trying things, even small, with a small stake, if I can say, and then from that he learn or she learn how to, let's say, as I mentioned, conduct themselves, negotiate, getting what they want, defining their goal, getting the process, being disciplined with it, understanding it, sympathize. Empathy is very important. When you want to sell something, let's say, you have to understand what the person in front of you wants and how they're going to feel. And you try to be in their shoes first before trying to shove the deal into their face, as it happens a lot these days. So, so I guess it's something a person would learn from playing to start with as a kid, from interacting with people. And I think this is for me as an invitation to, when I was a child or when I was a teenager, there is always that hesitation from my parent to say, don't play, don't overplay. They all want to push me to study or to be behaved all the time. But now, as an eldest person, or now in my age, I realize that there is a lot to these games. There is a lot to being with my peer than just what the parents used to see.
I think I definitely understand where you're coming from. And for me, it's really difficult to find someone, this sounds pretentious, but as ambitious as myself. Someone to match that ambition and that drive with me. If you ask anybody, I am almost always on the move. I'm doing a podcast. I'm making advertisements for my gym, or I'm in the gym. I'm doing something. I have to keep myself busy, because if I'm not, I'm bored, or I'm sitting there and I'm like, I don't. What am I doing with my life? I need to push myself to do something.
You want to play all the time.
I want to do something. I got to do something. But I definitely get burnt out sometimes. Like, I get really burnt out editing, because I don't like editing too much in terms of filmmaking, but it's just a part of the process. But I get burnt out, and so either if I get burnt out, I'll go try. That's why the podcast comes in, because now I'm doing something that I want to do, whereas I'm not doing something for someone else. And it's quite interesting when you're a filmmaker, because everybody in the world wants content. Nobody wants to pay for it. That's one of the things, and that's so frustrating. So definitely when I'm editing, or not even editing, but when I'm trying to find people for projects and stuff like that, it's very hard to find someone as ambitious as I am, or who wants to just make something to make it, and things like that, because it's hard to find people that are as like-minded as you, even to do business with.
Yeah, it's something interesting about in filmmaking. I noticed the hardest parts are because as an actor, and then participated a bit in developing a story and directing films, and is these parts where people consider mundane, sort of, or trivial, is, let's say, planning for your shots, taking your time, grasping the story, and the editing as well. And these, I think, these moments that what define if the film is good or not. Everyone want to be in front of the camera. Everyone want to be on the spot. But actually, I don't have any comments in particular. I think I didn't contemplate on that, on the idea. As I agree with you that most of the time I would have some story, some content. Sometimes I write it somewhere, but I haven't really thought about it from the aspect of whether people want it, whether people want to pay for it. So I don't have any comment at that point. Maybe you have more experience than me in that area. Yeah.
I mean, so as a filmmaker, when you're starting out, I guess I'm still considered a junior level filmmaker. Just fine. I have no ways with that at all. But at first, you kind of start with negotiating. For example, I have free memberships for gyms that I make advertisements for.
Is that your gym or just?
That's my gym. Yeah, I go to that gym. I get memberships out of there. In turn, I make there some content. So that's not bad at all, because when I get a full-time job, I won't have to pay that bill. But the thing is, when you're trying to expand and you're trying to do things for other people, for example, when I'm filming like Muay Thai or Jiu-Jitsu, everyone's like, "Hey, can I have my content? Hey, can I have my content?" And I'm like, are you gonna pay for it? Like, this is the gym's content. This is not mine. So sometimes people, not even that's not really that big of a deal, but a lot of people just, maybe they don't understand the power of that sounds stupid, the potential of having video content, or maybe they just don't understand, or maybe they just don't care enough to even have videos or even have like an artistic value. Usually when you try as a filmmaker, you're always trying to do that extra. I want to light it for a podcast. I want the lights. I want the cameras. I want the specific microphones. But sometimes when you're filming other people or martial arts, something like that, people rush you, or they don't want the lighting, or they don't really care about the sound. They just want the content, and then they want you to go with it. You know what I'm saying? And then so when I put that kind of stuff on like on my portfolio or something like that, it looks like crap, but I'm like, this is.
And these people, may I ask you, these people who ask you, are they people from within the project or someone from outside the project?
Sometimes within the project. If I'm making an advert, people always want their content, or some people just they want something a bit extra. I don't know. Dealing with people here is just can be difficult, especially from a filmmaker's perspective, because you always have what is possible in your head in terms of a filmmaker's or a director's point of view. What is something that you do mainly in filmmaking?
Now, acting, and so maybe I can talk on the side of people, not taking their side, but from their perspective. Mostly acting, and I'm not aware of the actors or the performer that you're dealing with, but as an actor, kind of, I would be looking for compensation for my time. So sometimes the compensation would be monetary, clearly, and sometimes the compensation would be artistic. And most of the time, it's not really clear that whether this thing has an artistic value until it's done and it's in a video and it's final cut. So a person would take a kind of a shot in the dark for that. I cannot really say that their question is legitimate, but I don't see a point of them rushing you for some reason, because at the end of the day, they're gonna get the content one way or another. But what really kind of I would emphasize on when we talk about the content is, do a person want to create a content for the sake of creating content and to be visible? Or there is something they want to say and they want to tell. There is a story there aching in a person, want to tell people. There is an idea he want to explain to people. And of course, film or digital videos are very strong tools to do that. And I guess answering this question and being, I would say, in the right answer for the right project would help a lot if this content will go viral, let's say, or spread well, or just be another video passing by, if I don't say.
For me, when I'm making videos, I do like a documentary style kind of content. So it's usually about a minute long, depending what it is, maybe 2-3 minutes. I make it in social media size because that's optimal for, trying to market things like your martial arts for your gyms or whatever you might have. But for me, I definitely try to make it have some type of meaning. For jiu-jitsu, for example, I'm very passionate about jiu-jitsu. I like the benefits of it, and I understand the benefits of it versus, maybe other things. Of course, I am still biased against, with that. So I will point that out. But I do try to make, in terms of content, I made a jiu-jitsu advert for my gym. And, of course, I interviewed people, asked them what they thought about jiu-jitsu, what it's done for them. So testimonial kind of things. And so that was good. So I put that in there. But I definitely try to make content for a meaningful purpose. I don't like to just make something to make it, because then it's boring, it has no value, and then you forget about it. But if it connects with you in some way, emotional or whatever, then it means something to you. It sticks with you. It's like a good movie. A good movie, it's not just a movie that you don't like a movie just to like a movie. You like a movie because it has provided some type of value with it. You've understood it on some level, emotionally, spiritually, whatever.
You agree with it or you don't agree with it, it doesn't matter. But you have that moment with the movie.
So that's what I try to do. I try to provide value to whatever I'm making. But sometimes it's quite difficult to do that because you have a lot of people that just want to rush you. Hey, come on, let's record. Hey, come on. I'm like, give me a second. Let me get the camera worked out real quick. I got to make sure the lighting is good. If I'm going to interview you, I want the lighting to be good because this is going to go, my name's going to be on it. This is going to go everywhere. Let me do my thing. You hired me for a purpose. Let me do my thing.
But also I attribute this sometime lack of technical knowledge, I guess, with people you deal with. And maybe part of the game is the patience and trying to make them understand. Now, the thing is, I feel this frustration in my line of business as well. Even as an actor, I feel sometimes this frustration that as an actor, my approach is thinking about the character, constructing the character to the small details, and how, let's say for you as a person who film it, not as a director, I wouldn't talk about that. Let's say for a person who kind of behind the project and they lack the knowledge of the technicality, let's say, of acting. Yeah, I wouldn't name titles, but just that this kind of person in that position, that for them it's just a turn. But for me, I want to think about it. If my character would turn, how it would does it? So the small details. And at certain point, I realized that trying to explain to people that, or trying to change their mind about that, it might be harder than just try to accommodate them and doing my thing and trying to do the best I can, and also in the voiceover as well, because most of people I do voiceover and sometimes voiceover for famous brands, cars, and sometimes voiceover for some government entities, and I understand sometimes the person who's behind the project, they haven't done or haven't been in a voice recording session before. Sometimes they're not realizing that whatever they hear, it's gonna be cleaned. The breath gonna be taken, the pitch gonna be adjusted, and it's just put with the music, and then with the footage, it's gonna be spectacular. So they think with the moment they step into the studio, they're gonna hear what is in their head. Sometimes coming from a position of I understand your frustration, and I'm here to help you, and I'm here to do my best. It really helped a lot on calming them down and making them play along with you. So, because sometimes I see artists sometimes deal in.
Oh, we got a cut. Oh, well, just say it. It's podcast. You can say we got. Okay, we got a cut.
Can I finish the answer at least?
One moment.
It's okay.
Yeah.
I think that one that's gonna go away.
So let me finish the answer because I did.
Keep the sound going.
So sometimes I feel the artist is there frustrated. Why they don't understand this? How come they are in this project and they don't kind of understand what I'm doing? They should. And then it creates that at least sometimes the invisible clash between the two sides. So I guess it's part of something mandatory. The person who have the knowledge is to be patient and try to accommodate the other person.
All right. Okay, we're back again. And we were talking about filmmaking. Yes. And about how the difficulties of such.
And we kept talking on the break about filmmaking. I think it's a very interesting topic.
It is.
And there is a lots of ideas and experience to be shared. And I was talking, if you don't mind, about what's important, how it is important, and maybe that's one of the thing I advise the people you were talking about is how it's important for the actor to learn at least the basic of every job on the set, and how is that helpful for them to deliver their job and do their job in a very proper way. And I guess one of the elements that one of the good actors, especially cinema actors, are capable of is how they can relate themselves to the camera and deal with their positioning and eyeliner. And sometimes I from following them, I noticed that they have an great input in that. They suggest something, and that's something they suggest. It really make the shot better or make the scene better.
I actually did a kind of a freelance gig for a casting director, but it was more related towards people who want to become actors and get into commercials. And in my experience, directing people who don't have necessarily a lot of acting experience is very difficult versus if you're directing somebody with acting experience, because I can explain the situation to you as an actor. Hey, this guy is trying to kill you horribly, slowly, whatever. And then you can kind of grasp that kind of scenario in your mind, and you can portray that kind of those emotions that you would potentially feel, your character would feel, onto the screen. And it would be kind of, it would turn out better. Whereas someone who doesn't have any acting experience may be like, you know, confused, or they just would overact it, or it wouldn't seem natural, you know.
Because something about the martial art is the awareness of the body, the awareness of the emotion. Yeah, and that give a lot to the confidence and how much you should say and how much you should react. I think with the acting, the same thing. Being confident with the performance, being confident how much you let out in your expression and your body movement, and of course in the voice pitch and even the wording, how many words you use to convey this moment. It helps a lot and shows the difference between a person who's experienced actor or someone who just started or had no experience at all. And to me, I think the actor is the one of the links in the story. The writer write a story, but there is a lots of missing. Let's say that missing hole. The director come and make it visual and put all the element together, and then the actor come and paint the final dots that make the character. And I think looking at the actor from that perspective make your job easier. Make the actor gives a lot.
To delve into it, do like a research on it. You know, someone, especially depending on the scale of the project, because if you have like a character that's really written out and fleshed out, you really want an actor who can really get into that mindset. Maybe not necessarily method act it. I mean, that's always good, you know. But honestly, I think method acting would be kind of weird. I've briefly experienced it once with somebody, but he was kind of I'll say junior actor, if you want to call it that. So I didn't really believe it. But anyway, nonetheless, it's always easier to work with people who have acting abilities, whereas people who don't.
Yeah, I have met someone who kind of tries to apply method actor in most of his role. It's working for him, I would say.
Yeah.
But I think it shows something that what might work for someone, it doesn't work for you. So pragmatism most of the time is the best approach to how you're gonna conduct the character or conduct the acting.
Yeah. I mean, I've done a little bit of acting back in college. I did a couple good student films, but it's not really my thing. You know, I really don't. I don't really enjoy acting as much as people would, I guess, expect a filmmaker to do. You know, I really like being behind the camera. Directing and cinematography are my things that I like to do. Of course, in my college experience, I've had to do everything. I think that's actually one of the benefits of being in a film school, because sometimes, you know, you don't necessarily you have that team, but everyone's a bit inexperienced, so you just kind of figure it out as you go. But I think that's one of the benefits of film school. But yeah, in my experience, I definitely like directing and cinematography, because you really the director kind of visualizes it and brings it to life along with the cinematographer. And then you can kind of, you know, get your camera angle set and figure out what they mean and how to interpret these emotions of the character or the emotions of the scene. Bring it all to life.
But I think that when it comes to cinematography, that you deal mostly with people who up to a level that they are in grip of handling their part. And I think that makes it a bit kind of, I wouldn't say easier. There is an extensive process of work between you two. But being a director is to me is being an actor in the first place. Kind of, you have to put yourself in the situation of every you understand. And something that I wouldn't say it's bad, but for some actors it might not be comfortable is you see the director in the realm of the technicality and cinematography and the lighting, and they forget all about the actors, and when the camera start rolling, the actors doesn't know what to do, or kind of the setup that has been done for the actor specifically is not as full, or still a bit poorly done to extract that scene from him, and then the director feels frustrated about it, and people around him does that, because I think that because there is more of leniency toward technicality and a bit not giving attention to the artistic sense of it. Because when you look to the lighting and camera movement, it's an art of its own, and also the way you pick up the sound and of course mixing it together, it's an art of its own. But also the performance of the actor in the scene, it's a one element of that, and sometimes paying attention to it and creating, I would say, sort of a forthcoming and welcoming space to allow that person to go to the fullest is also important.
There's definitely a process in terms of directing, and of course I haven't done anything super flashy, but I definitely like to look into, you know, how to direct people when it comes down to it, and just out of sometimes curiosity and for knowledge, of course. But in my, of course, small experience, it's definitely good to really know your actors, really kind of get to know them personally outside of it, let everyone get comfortable with each other, because sometimes you're put into a situation that may seem kind of weird or awkward, so you don't want those kind of vibes or emotion or energy to kind of leak out into the performance. You want it to be all as natural and organic as possible. And so when you're taking that director's approach, it's really good to know your actors. Like if me and you are doing a scene and I'm directing you, I want to get to know you a little bit more. And I want you to be comfortable with me. And you can understand better how my approach from directing, and I can understand your approach from acting. And we can kind of meet in the middle. Whereas if I'm doing something that kind of throws you off of character, that's not your fault. My opinion, that's my fault, because I need to understand how you do your side of things, because you might have a method that's indifferent to mine. But as a director, I feel like I have to be more malleable in terms of how I do this, because everyone's different. Everyone's got different experiences. And so it's easier to kind of help you take your approach, whereas you take my approach to your acting out a scene or a film or whatever we're doing. So it's always definitely good to know your actors.
And I think it's two-way street. Two-way street, if I may say. Still, as a person, as part of the project, there is a responsibility to carry on with the project, even if the situation of a person end up with a situation where the director is not as understanding and open as he hoped or she hoped to be. Still, you have to do it, and you have to do it to the best you can. But as you mentioned, that I guess the best time and most of the best directors, they like to establish that relationship and trust. It's the trust. As a performer, I feel sometimes, and it's crazy. I try to understand it, that when you step into the location and you meet people for the first time, there is, for some reason or another, sometimes there's an issue of trust. There is nothing wrong with them. There is nothing morally wrong with them. But you don't feel trusting, and that's very dangerous to the performance. So very risky. So that the trust is established outside of the location. So in the location, as a director, you be fully kind of fisted on setting up the objects. So
I mean, really, as the director, it's definitely an intersection. Except if you imagine like a four-way intersection, the director's like in the middle, in my opinion, because I have to worry about, you know, if on a bigger scale, you'd have to worry about, you know, executive producers, you know, what the writers have, what the actors have, and then your crew. And mainly towards your crew and your cast. But it's also good to know your crew, which I know the people that I work with, and it's always good for me to know them. But they have to understand how I work too. And so, I mean, it's people. I don't think people, like my father doesn't understand a lot of filmmaking. So sometimes when I tell him like there's some, you know, technical aspects of the film that don't work. Like I had a documentary coming out that was about women's empowerment through jiu-jitsu, and there were some very touchy topics in there, but I told him that I was not going to go through with the project. And he's like, why? It was a good film. I was like, well, from an audience perspective, it might be a good film, but for an experienced filmmaker, the plot doesn't necessarily work out, because you can't empower somebody with only 4 days of training jiu-jitsu. You know, it's not going to work that way. It takes a lot more time to do that. You know, you have to be able to be comfortable with a martial art or really anything. So I decided to not go through with that project. But yeah, it's really good to, I got lost in my own topic, to be honest with you.
Actually, I want to add something to that, because we were talking earlier about learning how to conduct a business, and whether something that school is capable of teaching or not. I noticed that there is an element of sometime when I talk to people is they always overlook. Do you trust working with this person or not? Do you feel that trust to okay, let's talk, let's negotiate, let's leave it at here, okay, let's meet, because if that feeling is there, a lots of things gonna be easier afterwards. But what I notice is people, they go through it regardless if that feeling is there or not, and they end up with difficulty, and they end up trying to bang their head against the wall in order to move the wall, but the wall doesn't move. So when it comes to filmmaking is one of the most complicated and most sophisticated process. I've done lots of things, but this is amazing, and someone can sit and look at it and think of it as an analog of life itself and learn from it. So I guess the trust is the key to how things comes together, and I can attribute that also to our talk about business and how you establish business and how you conduct yourself as a business.
Definitely, I was in for, I wouldn't say a rude awakening when I started film school, when I started learning these things, but it was definitely challenging. I mean, there's just so many different aspects to it. Everyone has to be on the same page. Something's going to go wrong. And like when we started, the light busted. Like something is going to go wrong. Every time I make a film, I'm like, I put it in my head, not to curse myself or be superstitious, but I'm like, okay, something today is going to go wrong. It's never going to work out. Something's always going to go wrong. But it's how you deal with that situation and how it goes wrong. You know what I'm saying? So anytime I've ever done any film, something has gone wrong. Be it somebody's late, or I've actually had to fire somebody back in college because they were going to be like 4 hours late to set. And I was like, I'm on a schedule, man, So filmmaking definitely is very complex, and you have to deal with all sorts of different people from different backgrounds, experiences. So yeah, I understand what you mean. It's probably one of the most difficult things I've done outside of martial arts. Yeah. So tell us, where can people see your business and go on these tourist attractions and everything, and tell us what you've been up to a little bit?
Okay, the name of the company is Hiara, and Hiara means the reservoir of pearl, and it came nicely with the idea of diving into the culture. So we have a website called www.hiaratours.com. Individuals can book directly through the website. Also, we have listed our tours in TripAdvisor, which is kind of the most used platform for travel and leisure. Also in the website, and this is mostly for corporate businesses, bigger groups, there are emails, telephone number. They can contact us directly, and some people go with the packages that already provided in the website. We are also open for customized packages that tailored for people length of stay in the Emirates and so on. So I think the website and also TripAdvisor is the best way to get in touch with us. Yeah.
Okay. And do you have any films coming out? Anything? Any projects?
Well, there are films that still in the post-production. Something I've done with actually, I forget the production house. Yeah, it's a story of a girl that she came from the US, and she had like sort of a platonic friend she wanted to introduce to her family, and then how she's Emirati and how that goes. It's a comedy film. There is a film called Maryam, directed by Muhammad al-Hammadi. We have shot it last year, and it has been going around festivals, and it have a very nice kind of reception, and it's nominated for many rewards. It's called Maryam, and I'm not sure if it's still showed. It was showed in Sharjah International Film Festival recently. Also, I featured in the Misfits, the recent one. I guess it's coming in December. So I have a couple of things that have been done. Some of it in post-production, some of it's still going in festivals, and I've been hearing good news about it.
Good. That's always good. Well, man, I'd love to see your films when they come out. So definitely shoot me a WhatsApp. I want to see them. If you post them on social media anywhere. If you have a YouTube channel, I'll definitely want to check those out. So we'd like to have you on a future episode of my show. I'm still kind of working on the title, so I don't know what I'm going to call it yet. Right now, I'm calling it Healthy, Wealthy, and Fit, but that sounds a bit cheesy to me, so I might change that.
We will not disagree on the title.
Yeah.
Important thing is we sit together, we have this nice conversation.
Yeah. It's been a while, so it's definitely good to have you on the show, and thank you for stopping by.
My also my regards and best wishes to your audience.
All right, I appreciate it. All right, that's it. We're out.